All right, good evening everyone and welcome to the second class in our Positive Psychology series for 2013. It's lovely to have you here. We're getting lots of lovely hellos and greetings in the box here. Wonderful. How fantastic to have you all here. I'm seeing a couple of new names, so if you're brand new to this, this system and you're not quite sure how it works, here's how it works. I'll talk. You'll listen, and if you have questions or comments at any time, just pop them into the question box and press send or enter, and I'll be able to see them and I'll respond to you if I possibly can. Yeah, ask questions anytime. There'll also be time at the end for questions. So if you're brand new to this system, then welcome. It's lovely to have you here. Franca, you missed the first one. That is fine because all of our classes will stand alone. It's very unusual for the classes to build on each other. They're just grouped into groups. So welcome to Positive Psychology. It's great to have you here. And so I just want to say hello and show you my smile. Make sure that you're all smiling too. And welcome you to the Positive Psychology class. Now just a brief, I guess, reminder for anyone who's not heard of positive psychology before. What is it? It's very interesting when you say to people, I'm really interested in positive psychology, or, you know, I'm thinking about studying positive psychology, or I've been reading some. People always go, ooh, oh, but you should, you know, it's important to have the negative as well, and, you know, you can't just think positive all the time. And that's actually not what it is. Positive psychology is a recent branch of psychology which is focused on building strong individuals, families, and communities. So rather than seeking to treat what is wrong, the branch of positive psychology actually seeks to increase what is right in our lives. So that's a very simple explanation. Positive psychologists seek to find and nurture genius and talent and to make excuse me, to make normal life more fulfilling. Excuse me for a moment. Oh, that flu that I've had is still hanging around. Forgive me, guys. Sorry about that little interruption. So positive psychology is used as a complement to traditional psychology, and it emphasises the use of the scientific method, which is test, operate, test and exit in determining how things go right. What I'm saying is that positive psychology is not just some hippy-trippy, let's all think happy thoughts and everything will be fine. It's actually a very valid branch of science and research that looks at the ways that people who have better outcomes in their lives think, and it helps us to understand their ways of thinking and learn to use them ourselves. And it focuses on four main topics: positive experiences, enduring psychological traits, positive relationships and positive institutions. Now, we've looked at some of those in the past, and in this particular series we're looking at how to increase some of those enduring psychological traits that the people who have great outcomes in their lives are using, and one of those is tonight's topic. Tonight's topic is big thinking. Big thinking is harnessing the power of your thoughts to create success. What does this mean to you? I would love to hear from you. What does this mean to you? What's big thinking? What's harnessing the power of your thoughts to create success, coaches? What does this mean to you? I'd love to hear any comments. Just waiting for anything to come through. Ricardo's saying a positive focus. Yasmin's saying focusing on what you want and getting it. Fantastic. What else have we got? Any other comments? What does this mean to you? You're the coaches. I'm sure you guys have some understanding of what this means. John's saying that everything always started with an idea, so thoughts become things. I love that saying, John. Thoughts become things. It's so eloquent, isn't it? Sonis is saying going beyond your limitations. Awesome. Leslie's saying using your creative energy and thoughts to create your desires. Andrew's saying, thinking as if what you want is already here. And Etienne is saying, thoughts are energies sent in motion. So using thought that generates energies that will work for you. Lovely. What a lovely variety of answers here. And everyone's got a different take on what it all means. And they're all correct. They're all correct. And that's what big thinking is all about. Raywin's saying, believe that as you think, so you are. Some wonderful answers there, guys. Thank you very much, and a lovely introduction. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to give you the code for tonight's class nice and early. It is PP21BIG. PP for Positive Psychology 21BIG. Just make sure you write that down in your notes. The purpose of giving you a code in each class is so that we can prove that you've actually listened to the class for when you do things like your ICF applications, etc., and you have to prove how many training hours you've done. Okay, so everyone got it? Let's move on. So tonight, I guess, is a little bit different. We're really delving into the magic of thinking big and challenging some of the ways that you might be thinking right now, and see whether your thoughts can be improved upon to help serve you even more. So tonight I want to share with you how the thoughts you're choosing to think can hold back your satisfaction and success, or set them on fire so that you can enjoy a life beyond your wildest dreams. Now, if you apply it correctly, big thinking can help you do things like fuel your ability to succeed. You can rid yourself of that horrible thing of making excuses all the time. You can build your confidence. You can create yourself to be who you want to be. Get the habit for action. Turn defeat into triumph and make your attitudes your friends. So these are just some of the many benefits that we can enjoy if we employ some of the ways of thinking that I'm going to be talking to you about tonight. So, what is this big thinking thing that I'm talking about? What's it all about? Well, there are several distinctions between small thinkers and big thinkers, and we'll look at those in a moment. Big thinking is about engaging all of our mental and emotional tools and assets to create success. It's about identifying the opportunities in front of us and not allowing our past to dictate what our future will look like. It's about allowing our inner life to blossom and ridding our mental landscape of the traditional limitations that many of us have been conditioned to accept. Big thinking is about opening up opportunity and possibility, and ultimately, you guys know, that is the ultimate goal of coaching, to open up opportunity, to open up possibility, to make the impossible possible. But how many of us are living with these gremlins in our own thinking while we're attempting to build our coaching practices or assist our clients and create our ideal lives? So let's enjoy a journey tonight into the possible, to open up our minds and our futures and learn the secrets of thinking big to change the course of our futures. And coaches, this positive psychology series is to assist you so that you've got some background knowledge that you can share with your clients. But on the other level, and very much the intention of this series, is to assist you in your own thinking. And these classes, you know, we develop them throughout the year in response to what we see happening in the coaching community and what's happening in our school. And I would love to share this stuff with you tonight. I think this is a perfect time for many of you to just reevaluate the kinds of language you're using when you're talking about yourself and your studies and your business and your clients and your ability to build something. So I really want tonight to be a beautiful, freeing experience, not only in terms of the knowledge that you gain to share with your clients, but also how you can use it for yourself. So what are the hallmarks of big thinking and how can we start using them? Well, we need to begin by understanding that the magic of thinking big is created when we harness the power of creating appealing pictures in our minds. You guys know this, right? And I'm sure that we talk about this in other places than NLP, but certainly we talk about this in depth in the NLP room. Humans don't think in words and sentences. We think in images, pictures, and the feelings that we associate with those. Of course, when we're able to articulate those pictures and feelings into words, which is how we communicate them, then others can understand us. But the initial impulses in our brains and our nervous systems are images, followed closely by feelings or emotions. And this is actually true for everyone, even ADs, even A's or the auditories, even the people who are olfactory or gustatory. It's not just the visuals and the kinesthetics who think in this way. We actually all do it. A lot of how we experience the world and the thoughts and feelings we have, which will then drive the actions that we take and therefore the experiences we have, can be influenced by the kind of vocabulary that we choose to use, both internally and externally. In our own thought processes, the words we say to ourselves will influence the mental pictures that we create. And when we speak those words out loud or type them or write them, we're also communicating with ourselves, with our unconscious mind, as well as with the people around us. And this is how we choose to present ourselves, and so how we choose to ask others to treat us. All of this has an incredibly powerful influence over the results that we achieve or don't achieve, and the way that others interact with us too. So we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to harness the power of our conscious and unconscious minds. And a very, very simple way of doing that is by employing this thing called big thinking. Now, there are lots of different ways to use this thing that I call big thinking, and one of the ways to do this is by employing the kind of vocabulary that creates large positive images in your mind instead of vocabulary that creates small negative images. Compare the sets of sentences on the screen and you'll see what I mean. So someone who's using small thinking might say, for example, "It's no use, we should give up." And the big thinker would say, "It's not over till the fat lady sings, what else can we do?" A small thinker might say, "I've been working on this for 6 months and I haven't gotten anywhere, no one is buying." And a big thinker might say, "I've been developing this for 6 months, I've learned so much, the product is strong, and when I take this next action, I'll be even closer to success." A small thinker might say, "It won't work, and here's why." And a big thinker might say, "It will work, and here's why." Now, I love this example because remember, coaches, what you focus on is what you get, right? So if you're looking for all the reasons that it won't work, what are you going to find? All the reasons why it won't work. And if you're looking for all the reasons why it will work, what are you going to find? All the reasons why it will work. A small thinker might say, "It's time to stop, this isn't working." And a big thinker might say, "It's time to adjust our approach here." Now, I want to make something very clear, especially because the word positive is being bandied about in this in this class. I really want to make this distinction clear for you, coaches, not only for yourself, but also for when you're explaining this to your clients and talking to your clients about it. It's not about denying when things are bad. In fact, I believe it's actually the opposite. It's not denying when things are bad, it's actually accepting and recognizing very quickly when things aren't as you want them to be and dealing with it in as constructive a manner as possible and making the best out of things, even in bad circumstances. So it's really important that we understand here that it's not about saying, if it's raining, saying it's not raining, it's not raining, it's not raining. No, hang on, it's raining. And you need to accept that in order to go and grab your umbrella so that you can be protected from the rain. So it's a very important distinction to make. Positive psychology maybe, might sound like positive thinking, but it's not positive thinking. It's I guess, choosing to look at things in a more positive light. But exactly, Etienne's saying it's being grateful for the rain. Absolutely. Do you know what? It rained on our wedding day, and a lot of brides would have been devastated by that. But Hayden and I looked at each other and said to each other, well, rain means that it's fresh beginnings and fertile and, you know, all of those wonderful things that happen in your garden when it does rain. And we believed that that was a blessing coming down on us. So that doesn't mean that it wasn't raining. It actually did rain and people got wet. But it just meant that we chose to interpret it in a way that was more useful, more resourceful. So that's what this big thinking is all about. And I've taken some of my ideas tonight from a beautiful book which is part of our positive psychology library that we have at home, and it's actually called The Magic of Thinking Big. It's by a gentleman called David Schwartz, PhD, and normally I would put the book references up for you, but this is actually a really, I mean, look, the contents are great, but it's a very old book. I think there are probably more up-to-date ones that I would recommend to you, and I'll look into that for you. However, if you want to have a look at this book, it is still in print. It's been around for a long, long time, since the 50s actually, but it's an amazing book. So it's called The Magic of Thinking Big. And yeah, I just really wanted to make that distinction for you. So let's think about it. When would be the most useful time for you to use big thinking, thinking that embraces the possible, that opens up opportunity? The most useful time for you to use this kind of thinking, oh, Ricardo's saying 24/7. Wonderful. And Ricardo, it's very, very easy to think like this when things are great, but surely we need to consciously choose to use this thinking when things are not great, right? Leslie's saying when we're writing our goals, that's another fantastic time you can use this kind of thinking. And even more than that, Leslie, I challenge you to use this kind of thinking, this kind of vocabulary when you're feeling that things are not great. How do you do that when it's not great, Ricardo? Well, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Bob's saying adopt it permanently. And yes, I agree. Bob, I guess in this class, what I've attempted to do is encapsulate the style of thinking and communication that's most going to serve you as coaches. And I certainly myself have noticed a change in the kinds of words that I choose to use and don't choose to use when I'm coaching, and also even just in my everyday life. So I think this is a shift that I'm encouraging all of you to make in order to be the most effective coach you can be. So yeah, exactly. Ricardo's saying it's the same thing. Coaching or life, it's the same. I agree. So Raywin's saying when challenges come up, it's the best time to use it. And Etienne's saying when you get to the edge of your comfort zone. Yes, and these are all not warning signs. These are little red flags, these times when you think, okay, am I going to go down that old, well-worn path in my brain of complaining or stopping or shutting myself down, or am I actually going to challenge myself to think differently here to get a different result? Frank is saying learning to dance in the storm. Beautiful. I love it. So these are all, I guess this is really my take on what I want to start seeing happening in the language that we're using as coaches, both in mentoring classes but also in our general correspondence, yeah? So things like I hear a lot of coaches saying, you know, oh, it's so difficult, there's so much to learn, I'll never get the hang of all of this, I'm never going to be a good coach. Well, what you focus on is what you get, guys. So what could you choose to say instead that would serve you along your coaching journey better and point you in the right direction so you get there quicker? So this is the kind of thing that we're talking about, guys. So the most useful time for you to employ this kind of approach is when you're challenged, when you're thinking that things are not good, or when there's a problem happening, or and you know, it might even take some effort and practice. For some of us, it might even be a 180-degree switch in your thinking from how you have previously thought about things to how you really want to. But it's worth taking the time and effort to cultivate more of these thought patterns, even if you need to self-correct yourself multiple times. And this is really what I wanted to share with you guys. It's not about suddenly you just become a coach and bang, your language is just perfect and everything's wonderful, wonderful, and the birds sing and the sky is blue and everything's fabulous. That's not life. That's not reality. Although, as we know from our quantum series, reality is subjective anyway. But what I wanted to share with you is give yourselves a break when you're making internal changes and, allow yourself to, have that moment where you go, oh, that was a really unpleasant thought, and instead of punishing myself for it, I'm just going to choose to change it. It's like when you're meditating, and any one of you who practice meditation will agree, it's very challenging at first to clear your mind and have no thoughts. And if you're new to meditation, or if you're really out of practice like me, I haven't done any for a long time, then thoughts will intrude on you the moment you start. But the practice of observing the thoughts and then choosing to watch them pass by, so picturing them passing by like clouds going past in the sky, rather than engaging with them and grabbing onto them, that's what it's all about here. So you might initially have a closed off, negative or small thinking kind of reaction to a situation, but the secret is not to engage with that thought pattern, just notice it and then consciously choose a different view. And for me, I'm quite highly visual, so it helped me to actually picture it like that. When I first started learning how to do this, the thought would come up and I would choose to put it back on the bus and keep it going and look for the next thought that was coming. And I would make sure that the next thought that was coming along was a more useful, resourceful one that was going to get me closer to the result that I wanted instead of further away. It becomes easy with practice. The more you build your neural networks and strengthen the connections in your brain, eventually one day it will be automatic for you to use big thinking and far less normal for you to use the small thinking that you've previously been trapped by. So it really is an extraordinary thing, and my very firm belief, guys, is that you must embrace this if you're going to be on the coaching journey, because this is what we're asking our clients to do. You must make this internal switch yourself before you can fully serve your client. So I've got a couple of comments here. Fabulous. Let's have a look. So Frank is saying, changing perception. When it gets tough, say, it's okay. What am I going to take from this experience to see it as a blessing or growth? Bob is saying, before I've overcome the hurdle, I focus already on the achievement as a result. Yeah, fantastic. Bob, that long range vision is very, very helpful in using this kind of thinking. So I encourage you to keep doing that. That's wonderful. So there's a few really quick tips I would love to share with you about how to get more of this kind of thinking happening. And it's partly in the vocabulary that you're using, it's partly in the way that you're holding your body and delivering the language, and it's partly in the self-talk that you're using. But just some very general tips here. So first of all, when you're describing how you feel, make sure that you're using big, positive, cheerful words. Now this is something that actually my wonderful husband taught me before either of us were even coaches, and it's just part of his quirky personality. He's one of those people who, when someone goes, how you doing? He says, I'm fantastic and thank you for asking. That's his usual thing that he says. And then quite often he'll usually say, and how about your fine self, or something like that. And do you know what? It's just incredible the reaction that you get. Now, we have this thing, and I don't know if it's in Australia or if it's a modern world thing or if it's a Western world thing. Look, I've got a personal opinion on it. I think it's probably an Aussie thing. I'd be interested to hear what you think, but so many of us, our normal reaction is, yeah, I'm all right, how are you? Or, yeah, not bad, or even worse, yeah, can't complain. This is a very normal thing for us to say when someone says, hey, how are you? And it's kind of like you're wanting to minimize how good you are in case it might be threatening to the other person. And you know what I say, coaches? Screw that. Let's be a shining light in the world and show people what it means to actually enjoy our lives and to embrace what's good about our lives. So, I really want to challenge you. If someone says to you, hey, how are you? Make your normal make your normal reaction, yeah, I'm great, how are you? Or I'm fantastic. Or Hayden's just come in and he's sitting beside me smiling. Did you hear me talking about you?
I did. I have something to share if I can.
Oh, okay, hang on, let me just move the microphone.
I'm sorry to interrupt the class, guys. I just wanted to share with you that you get some very, very funny reactions from greeting people with the answer, fantastic, and how are you today? I was in a truck stop recently because I work in the logistics industry, and I got a coffee from a truck stop, and the person behind the counter said, "Good morning, and how are you today?" And I went, "I am absolutely fantastic, and thank you for asking. How's yourself?" And a truckie beside me said, "How in the hell are you fantastic on a Monday morning?" And I get this kind of response quite often, so I turned to him and I said, "You know what, mate? I choose to be fantastic. What are you choosing?"
Oh my gosh, did he smack you?
No, he went, "Yeah, right. Oh, fair enough, okay." And it actually picked him up.
Oh, that's good.
He started his day in what seemed to be not the best of moods, but challenging him in that little way made a hell of a difference.
You didn't tell me about that.
No, well, I was just thinking of it when you were mentioning me there. Thanks for your time, guys.
Yeah, thanks Hayden for that little guest spot. Wonderful. So, yeah, look, it's just such an interesting thing that it's about challenging what the world accepts as a normal answer. And it's not doing it to be different to everyone else, but it's about, what is the reality that you want to create for yourself? And do you want to have just an, yeah, I'm okay day, or do you want to have a, yeah, I'm fantastic day? So even, recently, guys, I had the flu, as you know, and even when I was answering the phone when I had the flu, I would be saying, yeah, I'm great, thanks. How are you? Just a bit of flu on the side, but it'll go in a couple of days. So, because people could hear it in my voice. So it's about linguistically minimizing the stuff that's not working for you and pumping up and maximizing the stuff that is working for you. John is saying, my answer, no matter how I feel, is unbelievable. That covers it all. Cool. John, what's the intention behind that? Is the intention behind that always a positive one? Because remember, the emotion behind the answer also has weight for yourself as well as for the other person. Raywin is saying, a wonderful response I received when asking someone, how are you, was absolutely blessed. And what about you? Love it. This is a beautiful word, blessed. John's saying, oh, always with a smile. Wonderful. Fantastic, of course. Another point, another really quick tip for big thinking is to use bright, favourable, cheerful words to describe other people. And the simple reason behind that is that it's going to come back and bite you if you don't. And you need to think about it, guys, also from that quantum level. When we're talking about the kind of energy that we're putting out and knowing that we're all part of the same system, surely if you're making unfavourable comments about someone, it's going to have some effect on them, and we know that to be true. So, really using this wonderful machine that you have in your head to generate great outcomes for yourself and the people around you, rather than leaving it up to chance or habit. Bob's saying it has to sound realistic and not over the top. Bob, yeah, look, hey man, that's your map. I know people who will say all kinds of incredible things, and yeah, it certainly stops people in their tracks. It's probably not my choice. I say something a little bit more, I guess, regular. But that's very much an individual choice. And I agree. If that's your style, that's cool. But no judgment. It's got to work for the person. And it's very much about being, congruent with who you are and how you present yourself. And yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So here we go. So Frank is saying, I say I'm great, and the response I receive is a huge smile. And people say, you're always so cheerful and smiling. What a wonderful thing to hear people saying about you. What an incredible thing for you to hear reflected back from the world around you. All right, the third point is to use positive words to encourage others. Compliment others genuinely whenever you can. Genuine, heartfelt and truthful praise is a tool for success, so use it. And I've been doing some research in our company. We do leadership stuff, and some of the latest research that's just come out about team dynamics is just amazing. The ideal ratio to get a high-performing team working at their peak in business is about 6 to 1 positive to negative comments in the workplace. So there was this big study done and across a number of different teams in a very, very large company across different sites, and the ratio of positive comments that were found amongst the team and from the manager to negative comments in the most high-performing teams was 6 positives to 1 negative. So it's very important that you don't get rid of the negative altogether, because you have to have that balance of noticing when things aren't right. But the highest performing teams by far, financially, emotionally, in terms of team dynamics, the whole, like across the whole spectrum of how you measure performance from a team, 6 to 1. The teams that were doing the worst and that had huge turnover and were constantly not meeting budget, there was 1 negative comment for every 0.3 positive comments. So there was the researchers found without a question, without a shadow of a doubt, there was a direct correlation between the kind of environment that was being created with the language people were using and how they were projecting that out into the world and the kind of results they were achieving as a group. Okay, I've got a comment here from Ray. I'm just going to read out. I worked in the car industry for years, and I had a salesman who always used to greet customers with "lovely day" and had a cheeky smile. He always put a positive spin on things and used to sell the most cars every month and was the #1 salesman for years, obviously for other reasons, but the greeting broke the ice. Yeah, Ray, wonderful example. Very similar to an example in the book, actually, that I was reading, The Magic of Thinking Big. They talk very similarly about a guy who sold real estate, same kind of thing. So it's about how you set the stage with your greeting and how you set up expectations for what the rest of that interaction is going to be like. Point 4 there, use positive words to outline plans and actions to others. And this is just such a great example. Yesterday I was at an event for the Small Business Festival. Went along to a networking event and met some people, and there was a meeting where we were talking about the dangers and benefits of outsourcing overseas and what it meant to the Australian economy. Now, it was fascinating. There was one person who saw it as a terrible thing. She thought it was going to be the death of many Australian businesses and that it was absolutely detrimental to the Australian economy. Jobs are being sent overseas. You know, we're killing our own economy. And then the exact opposite point of view also existed. There was one other person who said it's a massive opportunity for Australian business because we need to look at how we can offer extra services and quality to justify the higher prices that we charge and give extra value to our customers. So it's an opportunity for us to differentiate our services from our cheaper competitors overseas so as to attract more custom back to those Australian businesses. Now, one person was an incredibly successful business owner, and the other person was someone who described themselves as a jack of all trades and hadn't really settled on any particular business. Which do you think was which? Which do you think was which? It's pretty obvious, right? The one who had that really small thinking was the one who she really hadn't settled on any particular business. She had a number of different balls in the air, and she was basically nervous and negative about everything that was happening in business. The other gentleman was a very, very positive person. He'd been running a very focused, very successful business for 25 years, and it was obvious from his mindset that he saw every challenge as an opportunity. And he was clearly reaping the rewards from that mindset. And I guess the other quick tips for big thinking, learn to see possibility and potential and learn to see yourself as you plan to be, not as you are right now. One of the best ways to view your world is through the lens of possibility and potential rather than just concentrating on what you perceive to be is reality right now. And again, this is not colouring things up with rosy coloured glasses. This is not denying the truth. It's simply choosing to focus on how you want things to be and what the opportunities are rather than always looking at what the negatives are and what all the drawbacks to a situation might be. Layla's saying, at the gym a client was so self-conscious of doing exercise And I said to them, wrong, give yourself credit, you're doing great, it's only your first week as a member. Yeah, Layla, very important, that mindset stuff, because that'll get her to keep coming back and eventually enjoy those great results, or give up early because she hasn't seen the results she wanted, and that's because she gave up, right? So our mind creates our reality. And it's so important for us to be super hyper aware of this, coaches, as people in the profession that we're in, not only for our clients, but even more so for ourselves. So here are some additional points about the kinds of benefits that you can enjoy from employing this kind of big thinking. Now, for anyone who's thinking, wow, I definitely don't have this kind of thinking going on and it's going to take me a long time. How long did it take me? Guys, this is the first time I've ever said this to you. I'm not a naturally particularly positive person. I didn't grow up in that kind of a household. I didn't have that kind of influence, and so my natural worldview as a young woman was actually, I wouldn't say it was negative, but it was certainly fear-based, a lot of fear around a whole bunch of different things. Fear of trying, fear of failing, fear of looking stupid, fear of people judging me, all of that stuff. And I think some of this stuff I learned naturally as time went by, but certainly it came screaming to my attention when I started studying coaching. And I would say it probably took me about maybe 6 months or so of just consciously practicing this every day, noticing when the thought patterns were happening. So the first step to any change is awareness, right? Just having awareness of what's going on, being consciously aware of it. The second step is then to choose something different. So to realize that change needs to happen and say, okay, something different needs to happen. I'm not quite sure what it is yet. And then the third step is the knowledge and the skill in making that replacing thought. And the replacing thought must be powerful, it must be big, it must have emotional engagement for you. So my take on it for me personally was that the negative thoughts or the fear-based thoughts tended to come very quickly. They were automatic because that was a well-worn path in my brain. And probably at first it might have taken me 2-3 seconds to come up with a different thought. Now, however, after years of practice and years of coaching and years of living as I speak and really, doing some great work on it and consciously changing it and working with some great NLP people as well and doing some unconscious changes, it's very natural for me now. Those negative thoughts come out very occasionally, and when they do, I can spot them straight away. It's like it's so obvious that I know how to consciously change it and I do it. And it takes practice, so you need to stay on it. So here are some additional tips, and these are all about bringing you those benefits that we spoke about earlier. Fuel your ability to succeed by creating big, bright, positive pictures to move yourself towards. Now, this is about the meta program, moving towards versus moving away from. Meta programs are, I guess, the micro ways in which we think, and there are a collection of many, many of them. And one of the biggest ones is you've got people who are driven by what they want to move towards, and then you've got people who are driven by what they want to get away from. Now, if you're a moving away from person, then the main motivation in your life is the things that you don't want to do, the things that you want to avoid, the things that you don't want, and the things that you're afraid of. And the motivation that you have is to get away from those things. Can I get some yeses that this is clear? Before I move on, I want to get some yeses that this is clear. Great, thank you. All right, now, the challenge, if you're a moving away from person, the challenge then is if you want to create a bigger and better life for yourself, then what's going to happen if you're constantly focusing on what you don't want? Many of you coaches, guys, you're at a point in your life where you want to create something different for your future. But what's going to happen for you if you continually are focusing on what you don't want? Talk to me. What's your answer? What's going to happen if you just constantly focus on what you don't want? Yeah, Franco, you get more of what you don't want. That's right. Yasmin, that's exactly what you get. And yeah, you're right. Daniela, you're going to attract what you don't want. Etienne, you have to have that which you don't want. You have to have that which you don't want for you not to want it. Yeah, right. John, you're still going to get it because that's your focus. Exactly. So you guys all get how this works. And you understand it on a mental level. And I want to challenge you. What are you doing about it in terms of your self-talk and in terms of the language you're putting out there to other people? I really, really want to challenge you on this because this is some of the kinds of language that I'm seeing when we're having our conversations, and I get that we're all on the path, we're all learning, and I want to challenge you tonight to step up and start making this change consciously now. How do you do it? Well, in order to move towards a bigger, brighter, happier, and more fulfilled future, you need to shift your focus. Focus on what you do want instead of what you don't want. Now, this is a fundamental shift, but there's more to it, so stay with me here. For someone who is a moving away from, they have a lot of emotion caught up with the fear and the unhappiness and all of the stuff that goes along with what they don't want, right? They have fear, they have all kinds of distasteful emotion, and it hits them in the gut or in the head. It's a very strong emotion. It's a very strong motivation. I mean, hey man, if you've got a tiger chasing you, you need to run because and you will run. It'll be an automatic thing, and you'll feel that feeling and you'll go for it. So what I want to encourage you to do when you're looking at shifting your thinking from being a moving away from to being more of a moving towards, you need to make sure that the picture that you're creating for yourself and you're moving towards is big enough, bright enough, incredible enough, detailed enough, beautiful enough, connected enough that it will have a similar emotional weight. Can I get some yeses that you're getting what this means? You've got to engage all your senses and make sure that you're firing up as much of your neural network as possible. So when you're thinking about what you do want, you need to see it, you need to hear it, you need to feel it, you need to smell it, you need to taste it, you need to put it in rich, beautiful detail, you need to turn it up, you need to bring the picture closer to you so it's sitting right in front of you, you need to turn up the volume, turn up the brightness, turn up the contrast, as if you've got a remote control and you're looking at it on a TV screen. Got it? This is how you then create an emotional connection to that moving towards picture, and it will drown out the moving away from picture. Some people use visualization, vision boards, creative writing, whatever it is that's going to work for you, whatever works for you best. I've used all three. Flow of, what's it called? There's a writing that you use, flow of consciousness, I think, where you put your pen on the paper, you put a heading on the top of what you want the answer to, and you put your pen on the paper and you do not stop writing for 10 minutes, 10, 20, 30 minutes, and you just create this incredible, beautiful, detailed picture. You put as much vocabulary into it as you can. And when you've got that at the end of that, it's just the most amazing experience because you've tapped into the most positive and beautiful parts of your unconscious to create a very strong feeling about what you do want. And that whole time, you've not been focusing on what you don't want. This is one of the easiest ways to start thinking more bigger. And it takes some time. For most people who are moving away from motivated, it's very, very simple and quick and easy for them to instantly come up with that mental picture of what's not working for them and what they don't want, and they already know what it feels like, looks like, and it's instant for them. But if you ask them what they do want, they don't have a lot of detail in that picture. And it's probably when they look at it, and now I'm doing a little bit of NLP stuff, when they look at it in their visual field, it's probably far away and it's probably black and white. And so what you need to do to get that emotional engagement is bring up that picture in big detail, colour, beautiful, and make it as detailed as possible. This is one of the key ways that you can increase your ability to move towards what you do want. So take the time. This takes time. You need to learn how to do this. It takes time. Rid yourself of the horrible disease called excusitis. Big thinking is all about accepting that the communications you have with yourself and about yourself have the distinct possibility of holding you back or propelling you forward. A very easy trap to fall into, which allows us not to accept full responsibility for ourselves, is making excuses. And it allows us not to be truly magnificent. It allows us not to step into who we really are because we say, oh, well, no, I couldn't because I was too busy. Or no, oh, well, you know, I wanted to do that, but I ran out of time. Or, yeah, I just don't have the resources for that. Okay, excuses. Well, you can have excuses or you can have results. So ridding yourself of excuses, and sometimes it's about just choosing not to talk about it. Sometimes limitations might be there, and it's not about ignoring them, but it's about choosing not to go on and on and on about them and reinforce to yourself again and again and again why that's a problem or why that's a limitation. And softening your thinking around it a little and going, you know what, it's a limit today and tomorrow might be different. I'm going to choose to look at it again tomorrow. And having that attitude of sort of continuous improvement and continually looking for the way around the issue rather than just stopping your journey when you hit that first roadblock. Create yourself to be who you want to be instead of who you think you are right now. Live into your future by living into the choices that you're making with your big thinking. This is not about false promises. It's about meaning what you say, saying what you mean, and choosing your internal and external projections of yourself on purpose instead of by habit. And guys, this is also about your coaching practices. Yeah, and your study. I get that everyone has full-time jobs and probably kids. I get that everyone has challenges with, you know, transport back and forth to work. There's nothing wrong with that. That's life. And as coaches, if you've chosen to commit to your course and commit to serving your clients and building a beautiful business in whatever way suits you, then do that thing, commit to it. And it doesn't matter how long it takes you, but keep working. Ray's been reading a bit of Tony Robbins, obviously. Constant and never-ending improvement. Can I? That's the one. Constant and never-ending improvement. And Frank is saying, excuses be gone. I had that yesterday, then got productive and got on with it. Now, using big thinking is also about creating more of a habit for action. So this is about consciously including lots of action words in your vocabulary and then following through. So instead of saying something like, I'll get around to it eventually, or even worse, oh, that's never going to happen, which is something that's so easy to say when we're talking about building our businesses or having an ideal number of clients or whatever. Instead, choose to say something like this. My intention is to finish that in the next 3 months. Or my intention is to finish that within the next 6 months. But setting yourself reasonable goals and giving your unconscious mind that message that, yeah, you know what, you better start working towards this. And this is very much, guys, also about choosing. When you're choosing in your big thinking, you can choose overwhelm or you can choose action, but you can't choose both. Overwhelm is when you look at all the things that there are to do and you look too big picture. Action is when you take a quick snapshot of the big picture and then you zero in on one thing that needs to happen today and you do that thing. And the next day you take another snapshot of the big picture and you go, okay, what's the one thing I need to do today? And you do that one thing. It's very easy to get stuck in overwhelm for weeks and weeks and weeks, especially with your studies, especially with all the classes you need to listen to, all the reading you need to do, etc. And I really want to encourage you, you can get through it. It is possible. And more than anything, it's about just taking the next step. Just do the next step. Doesn't matter what it is, just the next step. In fact, there's a wonderful author called, I think her name is Susan Ariel Rainbow Kennedy. Her pen name is Sark, and she does these amazing, beautiful books that are very creative. They look like they've been drawn by a 6-year-old with brightly coloured crayons, and she's an artist. And she also writes a lot about self-development stuff, and she calls it micro steps. Take micro steps. Today, open the book. Tomorrow, read a page. The day after that, turn the page and read the second page. It doesn't matter how small the action is that you take, but doing anything is better than doing nothing and staying stuck in overwhelm. So get that habit for action by using more action words in your vocabulary. Turn defeat into triumph. So make a habit of using phrases like, what a great learning opportunity. Wow, this is a real blessing in disguise. And now I know, wow, now I know what I should not do. I'm closer to knowing what I should do. And I'll give you a perfect example. Hayden and I recently, a little while ago now, ran our first ever Google AdWords campaign after learning from Doc in the mastermind room how to do all of that, which was extraordinary. And we were quite bold and we put quite a big budget on it. And we pressed go and went, fantastic, let's go to bed and see what happens. Now, unfortunately, there was one little button that we hadn't ticked. And what that meant was that the ad was shown through a different set of networks than what we'd intended it to be. And we ate up our whole advertising budget in one day, in about 20 hours. And so that was a big, steep learning curve for us. But you know what? Here was our attitude. Well, now we know what not to do. So we were one step closer to knowing what to do. And that learning alone was just extraordinary, because now with all of our advertising that we do, not only AdWords, but LinkedIn, Facebook, other places that we advertise, we're very super aware of using that targeting with a lot more intention. So it was an extraordinary learning opportunity. And actually, you know, at the end of the day, we learnt something from it. We are now building our business more successfully because of it. And so it turned out to be a great thing. Didn't feel like it at the time, but we chose to use that attitude of never-ending improvement and turning defeat into triumph. A couple of comments here. Etienne, I have come to believe that not only it's about creating ourselves, but also about getting out of our own way and allowing ourselves to be unique, creative and authentic. Somehow we all have something that has been within us since the day we were born, and it's about allowing it to come alive and pick up the pace and create from there. Yeah, thank you, Etienne. I agree. This is definitely not about cookie cutter thinking where, you know, there's a certain type of phrase you should use. It's got to be whatever works for you. And there's a huge range of people on the call tonight who have very different vocabularies and very different ways of looking at the world. And what I'm encouraging all of you to do, exactly as Etienne said, is get more in touch with your authentic self and allow yourself the freedom of moving towards what you want instead of trapping yourself in what you don't want. And one of the tools to do that is by using more big thinking. Thank you, Etienne. That's a wonderful point. And finally, make your attitudes your friends. Your attitude of openness, curiosity, or wanting to learn, seeking out the good, choosing to see the positive, these are all the kind of attitudes that are going to put you in situations where you have an opportunity to learn something, to grow, to contribute, to become a more expanded and fuller and more complete version of yourself. And what a wonderful opportunity is that. So I'd love to open up the floor now for any questions, comments, or to answer this question. Have you had any insight tonight about where your thinking may have been holding you back? And I always want to be authentic with you guys. I always tell you the truth. There's one part of my business, our business, where we've been holding back, and that's because it's an area that we choose to believe that we don't know enough about. And actually, we were talking about it late last night, up late last night doing work, and I said to Hayden, do you know what? Actually, that area of business, I found myself saying to him, I don't know how to do that. And I actually stopped myself and went, hang on, yeah, I know how to do that. I learned that at uni. Okay, now it might have been a few years ago, but it was interesting for me because I just finished uploading and researching the class for tonight, and it made me realise, yep, I've been using small thinking in that area of my business. I've been putting limits on myself by choosing to believe that I don't know anything about it. But then when I actually stopped and thought about it, I went, hang on, yeah, I know how to do that. So it's a wonderful opportunity to open and to now tap into the knowledge that I have and also find out more so that we can increase that part of our business as well. So how about you guys? Have you had any insights? Where has your thinking been holding you back? Leslie, I know. Thank you. Andrew's saying trying to do too many things at once and having no written plan. Yeah, Andrew, great strategy for overwhelm. It's a great way to spin the pedals and never get anywhere. And you know, that's cool because Andrew, now you've noticed it, you've acknowledged it, and now you can choose to do something different. That's wonderful. Bob, stepping out of the reserved, shy personality, becoming more outgoing. Bob, thank you so much. That's such a blessing to say. And I would love to encourage you too that there are beautiful gifts in being more introverted as well. And again, it's about finding the style that works for you and doesn't feel false for you. And there's actually, there was a real because I come from the human resources industry, right? It was a very trendy thing for several years in the 90s for people to learn how to be extroverts. And unfortunately, what you end up with is a lot of people who don't really feel all that connected to how they're acting, and it's actually very ingenuine. So now there's a swing back in corporate education towards more, encouraging people to tap into their strengths as an introvert as well. So yeah, it's about pushing the boundaries in ways that are comfortable for you and that are going to work for you, and maybe an extra step or two to really make sure that you're growing. Ricardo saying it's about being extraordinary. Ricardo, can you just clarify that for me? Layla, for me, not anymore. Okay, anyone else? Nothing's holding me back anymore. Nothing, Layla. Wonderful. That's very exciting. Andrew saying, thinking I don't know enough to get started, lacking confidence. Yeah. And do you know, it's such a common thing in our society, and it's such a common thing that we're all taught. You shouldn't start until you know how to do it. But how do you get to know how to do it? It's by doing it. And especially with coaching. Other comments. There's a lot of people on the call. I would love to hear from you. Thoughts, comments, questions, or any insights you've been having about big thinking and where perhaps your thinking has been small. It ain't about being perfect, guys. It's about being human and recognizing where you would love to change things. Christina, thinking that everything has to be perfect before I start. Nice one, Christina. Good on ya. Yeah, screw that. Try something else. And you know, Christina, here's the thing. You already are magnificent and you already have everything you need. So just go for it, lady. Paul, thinking I need to know more about coaching before I start my pro bonos. Oh, thanks, Paul. Really honest. And I think that's where a few people are at. No quicker way to learn than with your pro bonos, guys. No quicker way to learn. I still value my pro bonos that I did at the start of my coaching journey as some of my easiest and quickest learning. Raywin, finding ways to justify my procrastination. Wow. Awesome. Love it. I love that you're putting the finger on it, guys. Well done. This is fantastic because the first step is awareness, right? The second step is finding out that there's something different out there. There's a different way to think. And the third step is actually choosing that different thought. Layla, thinking outside the square. Sonus, expressing my creativity. Oh, wow. Bob, in a team it will work. It's contagious. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Paul, I know that I know enough, but I've had the doubts. Yeah. Oh, I get it. I get it, Paul. You're talking to the queen of procrastination and perfectionism here, or the ex-queen. Yasmin, I realised I'm just enjoying things and that's okay. Well, yeah, I'm very happy you're enjoying things. That's lovely. John, that when something doesn't work out, then try a different way. Yes. Don't give up. Just try something different. Do something different. Etienne, I've been thinking that it's not easy to build the business while working full-time. This is a very common one that I hear, Etienne, and thank you for sharing that. And if you ever need an example of someone who's done that, just have a little chat to Doc. He built his full-time coaching business while he was working full-time. He's an absolute inspiration. Ray, being in a state of blockage. What do we need to do, Ray, to get things moving again? What's the first thing you could do? What's the next thing you could do? What's the one step you could take? Layla's saying getting the best out of any situation. Come on, Ray, what's the one step you could take that you could commit to tomorrow to change that for you? There's got to be something. Actually, Ray, you already know what it is. Mona's saying try a laxative. Ray's saying signing up to the gym. Okay, great. Awesome. Good work tonight, guys. Thank you very much. I want to encourage you to continue to look for ways to think bigger and bigger. And this is all about using your language, your self-talk and your talk externally to create more of the future that you want, to communicate to your unconscious mind in beautiful big pictures that you're going to be dying to move towards. So I'm looking forward to hearing about your successes over the coming weeks and the challenges you've overcome. And I will look forward to seeing you again next week when we finish up our Positive Psychology series. And for tonight, I'm going to say thank you very much. Have a lovely evening. Thank you for your wonderful company. Good night, coaches.